Hey everyone, Trevor Dayley with MagMod. Hey, thanks for joining us for another How I Shot It. Today, I have Elmer Escobar.
What's up, guys? My name is Elmer Escobar. I guess I'm the owner of TNK Photo here in Southern California. We shoot events, families, engagement sessions, all types of portraits, and yeah, we've been using MagMod. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, but probably like what 2016, something like that. I think is when we started connecting. Right
You know,
around like after the first iteration.
yeah, I don't remember when exactly we connected, but you are like seriously a wealth of information when it comes to MagMod because not only are you constantly sharing like in the community on Instagram and so forth, but you actually have a YouTube channel as well where you put out quite a few videos sharing with people about how you use MagMod in a lot of your photos. So I actually normally we start with somebody's their website and Instagram, but I actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump right over to your YouTube channel because I want to make sure, since we're talking about it, that I mention to people. Guys, Elmer, you don't do a ton of videos. It looks like maybe a couple months or whatever, but you have a lot of information out here for a lot of photographers.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, you know where that comes from, Trevor, is when I was coming up in like 2006 when I started shooting, it
uh-huh.
was very, you guys remember, like YouTube was barely a thing back then, and the internet was barely a thing. I'm
Yeah.
really showing my age. But back then, my resources to find information as to like how things were shot, what lighting was used, all these things
Yeah.
was very limited. So I always felt like my way of giving back is let me share my information. There's enough work for everybody, and I genuinely believe that. So me sharing my secrets, you know what I'm saying? Like those secrets are out there anyway, so you can find them from anybody else. Why not let us be a place like a resource where we're here to help? Anytime anybody leaves a comment, I'll respond, and I always try to help out. So that's the reason behind the YouTube channel, and I'm gonna try to post a little more because I know it's enough.
Elmer, one thing I think is really cool about you and the business that you've built is you have a lot of photographer. I mean, 10 to 15 that are working with you right now. Is that right? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, so I always say I want to hire ahead of our growth.
Hmm.
So I never want to have a couple reach out to us and say, "Hey, we have a wedding. Can you shoot it?" And we're already double booked, and now I'm scrambling to find photographers. I never want to do that. We never send out photographers that we haven't worked with before. So we have 15 photographers on the team that any of them can shoot lead, second. I mean, hell, sometimes they'll even assist. If we're a little short, everybody's always happy to help out the team, and that's the type of environment that we have. It happened very organically, and I think the last time we spoke, the last time we did a how we shot it, we probably had like 5 or 6 people on the team, and now we have 15, and it's still growing. Yeah.
I just love the fact that I think every photographer, we start off with growing our business. And I think we all kind of have that idea of like, hey, sometime I would like to be able to have people working in the business, with me. And so eventually, hopefully you train enough people and then you can kind of slowly step out of it a little bit. But I just think it's really cool that, I mean, we were just chatting. I think you said you had like 6 weddings coming up or something like that on a weekend. I'm sitting here going, I don't even know how you handle that. That sounds like so much work. But it goes to
Yeah.
show just how good you are at what you do, not just in shooting, but also just in managing business. So hats off to you, man.
And that's the thing, man. It's all credit to my team. I give them the tools, but then it's up to them to say, yes, I do want to help you and take some of this load off your plate. Because, just 2 weeks ago we had 16 events that we were editing at the same time. And our turnaround time on a wedding is under 1 month. We always tell our couples you're gonna have your wedding photos in under 1 month. And the only way that we can do that is because of the team. I can't do it on my own. And that's something that I think as creative people, sometimes we think nobody can do it as good as I can. And that, I mean, it may be true, but it's only going to slow down growth, in my opinion.
Yeah. I love that, dude. That's awesome that you're giving them credit where, that's excellent that they've been able to help you grow that. So Elmer, before we do jump into the images, and I know we have 3 really cool images I can't wait to share with everybody and hear how you shot those images. Before we do jump into them, I do want to just share your website so everybody knows where to find you. Guys, it's TNK Photo, TNK Photo, and you can go check his stuff out there. And then, of course, you have your Instagram, which I thought it's funny how you got creative here. It's tnkphoto.com, all spelled out
Do
phonetically.
you want to know a secret why that is that?
Why is that?
Some bastard, I don't know, pardon my French, he took TNK photo,
Uh-huh.
posted one photo back in like 2012, 2013. Never posted again. I've sent him a message. I said, I'll pay you. I'll take it. Wouldn't, but never responded because I think they made it and then deleted it. So we just did tnkphoto.com. So at least people know there's a website that goes with it. So that was the secret behind that.
So, somebody out there is watching this show and they're the owner of the TikTok, which is MagMod. It's either MagMod or MagnetMod. I can't remember which one, but we've been trying to get that. And you go to it and it just says, "We'll sell this username." I'm like,
We'll buy it.
come on, dude. You're not even using it. Like, what? And obviously, who's gonna buy it except for us? Like, it just seems so. It's probably like one of our competitors that makes flash modifiers. It's like, here, quick, get that to TikTok. I don't know. It's crazy. But one last thing I want to mention too is because you do have a podcast that you're doing with our buddy Scott Stockton, which is this Flashing People podcast. Give everyone kind of the bumper of what this is all about.
Okay. So everybody listening here, when you speak with photographer friends, you're not talking, very PC. You're not talking, in customer service terms. You're talking like you talk to your friends. And this podcast is very much like that. So we're speaking very openly, still respectful. We're not going to be disrespectful and silly or, say things just for shock value. But we're going to talk a little bit more openly. We've talked about drunk brides and drunk grooms and groomsmen and how you deal with this situation, how you, and even on a semi-serious note, how you deal with a guest who's being disrespectful,
Yeah.
because that happens. I
Yeah.
told everybody on my team, if anybody's ever disrespectful, you're allowed to say whatever you want and I'll deal with them, because we're not here to be disrespected. We're here to have fun and we're here to do our jobs. So things like that, that's what we talk about on the podcast.
Interesting. I don't think there's a podcast out there that exists like that I know of. So I'll have to
I
definitely.
would hope so. Yeah. So if you guys want to listen to some shenanigans, give us a follow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, guys, there you go. You got a TNK Photo, tnkphoto.com on Instagram, and then TNK Photo is a YouTube channel, as well as the YouTube channel Flashing People Podcast. With that, what do you say, Elmer? Should we jump into some of these images?
Let's get into it.
All right. Awesome. Well, tell us about this first image. How'd you shoot this one?
All right. So a little backstory. We went to the sand dunes, or I went to the sand dunes actually, and that's relevant that I went. I didn't take my assistant with me because it's a 4-hour drive to get there. And on the way, and I don't want to put anybody through sitting with me for 4 hours. So on the way, it was raining. It raining in the desert, which I thought was the coolest freaking thing. I know the couple was freaking out because, who wants to shoot in the rain, but it went away. And the reason I mentioned this is because you see the clouds in the back. The sunset looks a little bit more epic, a little bit more colorful because there were clouds and there was a little condensation all the way in the back. So the idea behind this shot is I wanted to have a softer look to it. And the way that I was able to do that is I ended up using high-speed sync for this. Nice. So instead of shooting at 2/50th of a second and let's say 8 or anything like that, if you're familiar with high-speed sync, I raised my shutter speed quite high, and then I was shooting it at 2.8. So what that did is it gave a very soft background while still being able to use flash. On top of that, the reason I mentioned that I didn't bring an assistant with me is because instead of using, a softbox or an umbrella or anything like that on the flash, I put a MagSphere on it because anytime that I do high-speed sync, I want that soft feel. And so with the sphere, it gave it a little bit of a softer fall off than if it was, a straight flash.
Gotcha. So, Elmer, a couple times you mentioned soft. I imagine what you're referring to is kind of the shallow depth of field. Is that right?
Shallow depth of field and slightly softer light than going with like a bare flash, for example.
Got it. And so, but going back to the high speed sync part, you went high speed sync so that you can shoot at a low aperture still and not get the white sky. Because I think most people, when you shoot this, you think, oh, it's, I'm going to get white sky. You got the sun still above the horizon. And so in order to darken down that sky a bit, you shot at a faster shutter speed, but you wanted to keep your aperture wide open or low. You said 2.8? Is that what you said?
2.8, yeah.
Nice. And then you kind of have this really cool balance of these warm colors, and then you use the sphere as well. Did you use any kind of gel as well, or was it just the MagSphere by itself on the flash?
Just the MagSphere. Just the MagSphere, and then I did crank up the white balance just a pinch. Just like if you look at her dress, it is white, but it has a little bit of a warm undertone.
Yeah.
just a little tiny bit. So I went just a little bit warmer just to have a warmer feel overall. In a situation like this, sometimes, you can, if you want to now with Lightroom, you can select the subject
Mhm.
and then invert and maybe warm up the background just a pinch. Don't go too crazy because it'll look a little too photoshopped, right?
Yeah.
But in this situation, I just kind of warmed everything up just a little bit, just so it has that warm feel to it.
Gotcha. This last wedding I just edited this weekend was the first wedding that I've edited that I really used the Lightroom select subject type stuff. And it's the first time that I had confidence in it to use it.
Hmm.
I used it to really darken down certain areas and lighten up certain areas. It is pretty mind blowing what you can do in that program now compared to what we've been using for years. and it makes you think like, okay, when I'm shooting, knowing that I can select the subject and that it's going to grab all the hair and everything perfectly, well, hopefully perfectly, right? Um,
Yeah.
Maybe I need to shoot with a little bit more dynamic range in mind. Maybe I need to shoot a little bit darker or a little bit lighter, or an introduced flash here. Not knowing if I'm going to use it, but at least it gives me that option to be able to that I don't lose all the detail in the sky or lose all the detail in the shadows. That I have stuff to work with. Pretty powerful stuff, man. It's really fun to
Yeah,
use.
I think it's understanding what tools you have. So
Hmm.
when you're shooting, that in post, not that we're gonna save it in post, but I understand how much leeway I have in post. So I'll give you a great example. If you go to our Instagram and you look at the
Hmm.
second to last photo that we posted,
Okay.
in that situation, we actually, while we were shooting it, I was using our video. We had a videographer working with us, Sergio. You remember Sergio?
Hmm.
And he was using a video light, but his battery was kind of low. So
Okay.
right at the last shot, where I'm like, that's the shot. The freaking battery went off.
Oh, are you
So
serious?
what I ended up doing is I just shot it anyway, and then it's the one with the bokeh balls in the
Yeah.
front.
Uh-huh.
That one.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing in the original shot, that shot is complete, like very orange. So what I ended up doing is I selected the subject and then I cooled the subject off just a little bit. Maybe I went a little too far, but we're not going to tell anybody. Um, but you cool it off a little bit so they're not completely orange. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? So that's a situation where I know in post I can cool them off, bring the saturation down a little bit, and then the surrounding can be very warm, but they'll be a little bit more closer to being color corrected. So
Yeah.
that's a situation where understanding those tools really help.
I like that. I like that. And I think it's fun actually to jump over and even honestly, one of these days we got to do a how I shot it where we just go down somebody's Instagram feed and just be like, "How'd you do that one? How'd you do that one?" Because it's
I know I go on tangents too, but I'm sorry, everybody.
no, not a tangent at all. Because there's it's interesting because behind every photo is kind of these stories, right? These stories that help us, like, what were we thinking when we created this? And I think as any photographer that's getting into this industry and this business, you've been in it for a couple of years and you're trying to advance, you're trying to get further. It's like being able to pick another photographer's brain is such an important part of learning. That's why I love doing these shows, man. It's because I get to talk to the world's greatest photographers out there and like yourself and learn. So.
Yeah. You're gonna make me blush, man. No, but dude, I completely agree with you. Sometimes I'll meet up with, some of my team members. They shoot on their own too. Just because they shoot for us doesn't mean like they're strictly shooting for TNK. Hell no. I want you guys to get out there, make a good living, shoot for yourself. I'm gonna teach you whatever I know. I don't know everything, but whatever I can teach you, I'm happy to do it. And sometimes I'll meet up with them, and just meeting with them and just discussing will bring up an idea like, wait, I should be doing that. For example, I met up with Scott, one of our other Scotts that's on our team, a
Okay.
couple of weeks ago, and he goes, "Dude, all the what was it? It was something about posting all the reels that I post on Instagram." He goes, "Why don't you just post them on YouTube too?" And I go, "Why the heck haven't I thought about that?" Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I already have the content.
Yeah.
Little things like that will pop in your brain when you just speak with somebody else that's in the industry. I think it's great to have a good network.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Literally this last week. So this episode, we record this, what is today? October 16th. So we'll probably post it in a week or two. I don't know. I've had quite a few episodes that I recorded recently. But what's funny is if you look back at our YouTube channel, just about a week ago, I started taking a bunch of our reels and putting them up as YouTube shorts because the same exact thing went through my mind. I'm like, why are we not using these and like repurposing them? Granted, there's a little bit different audiences, so I understand that. And again, I know we're getting into kind of more like business talk here, but But yeah, it is interesting how you can kind of repurpose, and then going back to what you're saying, how we can all just learn from each other. Doesn't matter who you are. So
Yeah, put the ego aside. You can learn from somebody that's been in the business for 1 year. If they say something that makes more sense than something that, you and I have been doing this for like 16, 17 years. If they make more sense with what they're saying, why would I say, no, it's my way or the highway? No, that makes more sense. Let's do that instead.
totally,
You know?
I love it, dude. So going back to this image real quick before we go on to the next one, I did want to ask. So was this over at Glamis over in California? Is that where this was?
No, this is Dumont Dunes. So Dumont Dunes is off of Baker. If you're driving on the 15,
Okay.
going up to Vegas, you get
Okay.
off on at Baker where they have that really big thermometer. I think it's the biggest thermometer in the world.
Okay.
Get
Okay.
off there, drive about 40 minutes, and yeah, you'll get there. Just make sure you don't lose your car because that might have happened to someone that you're doing an interview with right now.
How'd you lose your like you lost where you parked it?
So here's the thing: you don't want to park your car too close to the dunes because the sand gets really, really soft. So I parked it a little bit further out, and then I went with the couple in their all-wheel drive car closer to the dunes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was a new moon that night, so it was pitch black when we were done. So
Oh,
then when we were heading back, dude, we couldn't see. It took us like 20 minutes to find the thing, and eventually we found it. But yeah, it took a while.
gosh,
Just a
that's
heads up, everyone.
fun. So and then one other tip when it comes to this kind of
Yes.
stuff is be careful when you guys are shooting in sand, and you know this best, Elmer, being that you're in California over there on the coastline, is that sand can just destroy your gear so quickly. So when you're shooting in sand, make sure that you're really like I never put my camera down on the sand, even if I have
Yeah.
like a like a backpack or something. I just keep it up and away from everything. So love this shot though, dude. So just to talk about it one more time, then you had one MagSphere camera left, and then it looks like the sun was kind of adding your second light as kind
Mhm.
of rim light. Is that right?
Exactly right. So what I did is I put the sun directly behind them, so that's why you see that she's kind of glowing,
Yeah,
for two reasons. Obviously your eye is always going to go to the brightest portion of the frame, so give them a little bit of light. It's going to brighten them up, and then you see the halo basically that's around her. That comes from the sun just peeking down behind the horizon back there.
love it. Beautiful shot, dude. Hey, real quick, do you remember was it an AD200 or a Pro Photo Light? What kind of a flash did you use?
I'm 99%. Yeah, it would be the 8200 because I was using the MagSphere,
Got it.
and this was before the XL came out. This was like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I think.
Very nice. Beautiful. Love it.
Thank you.
Elmer, tell us about this beautiful maternity shot. How'd you shoot this one?
So this was like 3 weeks ago. This was with Mag Grid. So it was camera right, obviously, because it was filling in, on her face. It was a little bit higher and, higher than her forehead, basically, a little bit higher than that, because I wanted to create that little shadow underneath her jaw right there.
Hmm.
And I wanted a grid because I didn't want to spill anywhere on the bottom. So you see those little structures on the bottom. I didn't want light to be spilling all over there because then it would look really, really, what's it called? Like flat, in my opinion, if you're
Yeah,
getting light all in the front. So I wanted it to be a little bit more directional. So I put it, to camera right and yeah, from above straight down. I believe I'm 99% certain that this was with the XL because one thing that I mentioned in the how we shot it with the XL, one of the videos that I sent you guys,
uh-huh.
I like how tight that beam is on the which one is it? The 20? That's the
Yeah.
tighter one, or is it?
The
Yeah,
20.
I think so. Right?
Yep.
It's just I like that. Even here, it didn't really light the bottom of her, but I like it. There's something about it that looks really cool to me, so that's what I went with on that one. And this was not high speed sync because there's no depth of field to be had. So the only time that we use high speed sync is when we want that shallow depth of field.
Makes sense.
If you are not going to get shallow depth of field, there's no sense in using high speed sync because high speed sync also eats away at your battery and the amount of power that it's really shooting out. So why hinder our flashes if we're not going to get the effect?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that I want to point out in this image, Elmer, is that you have the angle of your light. You did it just high enough that when it goes down, it creates that little bit of shadow for the maternity shot for where the baby is there. And I think that's important so you don't just get this flat lighting right there, right? And just kind of like that's one of my favorite things about looking at photographs and analyzing the light. It's like, okay, if that light would have been lower, you wouldn't have got that shadow right underneath there, and all those things is just so important to, I don't know. That's what I love about light and shadows, right? It
Yeah,
adds
I
the
mean,
shots.
I think direction and angle of light, exactly what you're saying, is so freaking important
Yeah.
because this shot would be completely different, as you're saying, if the light was lower or if the light was closer to me. So understanding that for me, I tell this to our team all the time, is that if I'm standing right here and the flash is literally right next to me, it's pretty much going to look like on camera flash. So at
Mhm.
that point, why not just put a flash on top of your camera? You know what I'm saying? Like if that's the look that you're getting anyway. What we want to do as off-camera light photographers is bring that flash away from us so we're shaping that scene in a slightly different way where it's more flattering, where it's a little cooler, a little different than just an on-camera look. There's a time and a place for the on-camera look, but in this one I felt like this was a better technique.
If you had to guess, where's kind of your favorite place? I like to use the clock analogy, but with the 6 o'clock being that you're at 6, your subject's at right in the middle of the clock. Where do you typically tend to place your light the most? Like, do you normally go 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock? Is there like one light position that you typically go to, kind of as your go-to light?
I would say our go-to the most would be 3 or 9, depending on what side she prefers, because usually that's what we go
Yeah.
by. So it'll be 3 or 9, or it's going to be 11 or 1. Like for example, this photo, I think it would be a little bit more extreme because I didn't want it to light the front at all. Really, I wanted to light more from the side.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, so for more normal shots, I would say like 3 and 9. So it's just kind of, it looks like off camera light, but it's not extreme. And then when we want to be a little bit more particular about where we want the light to look like it's coming from a completely different side, then
Uh,
we're pretty extreme. Like basically just aim at her nose from the side where she's looking that way.
got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Very cool. Love the shot, dude. It's a beautiful one.
Thank you.
I actually think I went to this place with you one time. Do you remember
That's
when
where we did the mag box.
Yeah, we did. I
It's
was looking. Go ahead.
it's
Sorry.
hard to recommend a different spot because like a lot of places in Laguna Beach, they require a permit. And then they tell you exactly when you can shoot. And if it's high tide, it's impossible to shoot. This location, you don't need a permit.
Mhm.
Not yet, anyway. Um, and even if it's high tide, you have a beautiful area just like this. Because we weren't even on the beach, we were above, but you're still getting that
Yeah.
beach view.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, same spot, dude. Some
Yeah.
things don't change. We still use that area.
That's funny. No, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, but I looked at that and I'm like, I think I've been there. Wait, I went there with Elmer. Like, it was kind of fun.
Mhm.
That's awesome. All right, man. Tell us about. So here's that shot. Tell us about this next one right here, and I think this is our last shot for today. But tell us. This is incredible. I love this. How'd you shoot this one?
Thank you. So this one, dude, this was like 2017 or something like that. This was a while ago, but I wanted to show something different than the other two. So one of them was high speed sync was the main thing. The other one was the grid wide. That's the main thing. For this, I wanted to use the designs for that we use for backlights. We love using that. We love doing that silhouette type of shot. It's very, in a way, it's easy once you figure it out.
Yeah.
But just adding that mask to it just makes it look, just gives it a little something extra. So in this situation, I was actually outside of the venue and I had my assistant set up the light and I was on the phone with them. And I just said, okay, aim it to the right a little bit, tilt it up just a pinch, because you want it to be where their heads are going to be more near the center of it.
Yeah.
Because if it's a little off center or really off center, it's just going to look weird. So from the angle that I was using a cell phone, I was probably a good 40, 50 feet away. I was outside and I just, shot in underexposed completely around them. And luckily, we were fortunate enough that people weren't walking around because this was during their reception. And yeah, it took like, 30, 45 seconds. And then we said, all right, thank you guys. Go back to, partying, eating, enjoy yourselves.
That's awesome. So this was the MagBeam with the MagMask patterns. Is that right?
Exactly right. Yep. I forgot what is this one called? I should know this because this is like the only one that we use.
I think it's Starburst, or
I
I can't
That
remember.
would sound correct. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's the one that I love the most for these types of shots
I
because
don't.
it brings your attention.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't even know the names of them. I just pull them out of my bag and, oh, that one, that one, that one. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. The crazy thing is the MagBeam. We've actually been sold out of the MagBeam for like a year, but we haven't replenished the stock yet. I can't say anything, but there might be a reason. Um, but it's certainly not a product that we are gonna let die. Like it's something that we know the value of the MagBeam in unique situations like this, and we know that it can be very helpful for a lot of people. And so just if somebody's watching this and saying, "Man, I wish I could get one of those MagBeams," maybe you can find one used on eBay or something like that. Or actually, we have some great dealers that still have a few. B&H, I think, even might have a few. But it is something that we are working on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's you know what it is, Trevor? There are so many creative things that you can do with, with MagMod, with different lenses, whatever the case may be.
yeah,
A little tip that I used to do is I would write down on my arm like 3 things that I want to try today. Because we all fall into this where we go through our patterns, we do what we always do, and
mhm,
we forget when we get home, we're like, I was gonna try X, Y, and Z. And you didn't because you forgot because you went to your routine. So
yeah.
one thing I always used I would write it on my arm. I was this close. I don't have any tattoos on myself. I was this close to tattooing 3 lines so I can have a checklist every day of things that I wanted to do or like shots that I wanted to do.
That's actually
But if
the
anybody
one
out there,
thing I would get.
write that down. Yeah. You're taking your arm with you. You're not forgetting it. So write it down.
I love that. I'm gonna grab my camera here because I want to show. I saw somebody do this on Instagram. I think it was like one of the Instagram reels. I think it was. But what they did was behind the camera screen right here, they put a list right here in the back. And
I
so it was
like
pretty
that.
much covered up for the most part, but every once in a while they just open up and remember, okay, those are like the things that I want to do today, or even poses. If you had certain poses that you're like, oh, I want to try this, or a prompt, like a couple prompt. But it's kind of a cool place to just throw a little, you know, I guess,
Reminder.
yeah, reminder exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, because you know what's dinosaur. Well, I'm gonna talk for myself. Dinosaur. I've been doing this for so freaking long. I'm like, okay, I need to do this, 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 this. We have 90 minutes to do it all. And then there's one shot that you wanted to try and you forget, and then you're kicking yourself in the butt. But when you do it, you feel so accomplished that like I gave them everything that all of our couples get, and then they got a little extra. And that just feels good as a creative person, I feel like.
I love that. Such a good tip. Such a good tip. Elmer, these photos are amazing, dude. I'm gonna bring these up one more time. So
Thank you,
again,
Trevor.
MagBeam with the MagMask for this one, and
Oh, and
yeah,
sorry,
sorry, go ahead.
and one more thing, I also put a creative orange gel on this one.
Yeah,
That's why it has that warm feel too.
and that actually it looks like it helps to kind of match the environment, kind of the room and everything. Um,
Yep, yep. Because otherwise I think it would look kind of blue.
yeah,
Yeah, if it was daylight, right?
yeah,
Yep, yep, yep.
yeah.
I'm almost positive we always have the creative orange
Uh huh.
stacked with the starburst. We leave that on because that's our go-to. So we just leave those 2 stacked on together
I
on
love
that
that,
one.
dude. I love that. And then we got this beautiful maternity shot, which is absolutely gorgeous. Love that. And then this one out here in the sand dunes. Insane work, dude. You are one talented person. I'm hats off to
I try
you.
my best.
Hats off to your team too. Just the fact that you guys work so well and cohesively together to create amazing images for all your clients out there in California. Do you guys travel quite a bit as well, or do you mainly shoot down in California?
We travel quite a bit. I think not as much anymore. I was going back to New York quite a bit because that's where I grew up. We've been to Cabo before. We've been to a few places. Can I tell you something though?
What's that?
Dude, I if you give me a choice between traveling and shooting right down the street, man, I'm tired. Let me go shoot down the street. And now, at this point, I would send my team to go to do the destination ones. Guys, enjoy, have fun. You guys are young, you got good backs. Go have a good time. You know what I mean? I'll be here.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah,
It's funny. I used to travel a lot, and nowadays I'm just like I am okay staying home and shooting weddings up the street. Yeah, I
exactly.
actually this last weekend I actually went to Mexico, and I took my son with me though, and that was cool. It was fun.
Nice, man.
Yeah, because they didn't hire a second photographer, but I knew it would be nice to have going back to the back. You mentioned the bags. I said, it'd be nice to have a young whippersnapper to carry my bags around. And so I brought my son with me, and he made a couple $100, 250 bucks or whatever to help carry my bags for the day. And then the crazy thing is every time that he wasn't carrying bags and lights, he was picking up my other camera and shooting like crazy. He loved it. He was absolutely addicted to it. Loved it.
It's an
Um,
experience, man, hanging out with dad and doing I don't my dad was a construction worker. It wasn't as fun going to work with him. You know what I mean? My dad said, "Hijo, we're going to Mexico. We're gonna go shoot a wedding." I'd be like, when are we leaving? You know what I mean? That's awesome, dude.
I love it. That's funny, man. But yeah, I'm with you, dude. As far as traveling nowadays, yeah, stay home, enjoy it. But when you're young and you're trying to build your business and you want to get your brand out there, then go travel around the world. Enjoy shooting.
Exactly. Listen, there's something for everybody. So if you enjoy traveling, there's plenty of work out there of people that will hire you to travel,
Yeah,
and nobody can stop you. If you really want to do that, there is a huge market for that. Just market yourself for it.
totally, totally. Elmer, it is so fun chatting with you, man. I can see why
Thank
you and
you.
Scott have these great conversations because it would be so easy just to chat for a couple hours and talk all about it and stories and everything else. It's so fun. You are certainly an easy person to talk with for sure.
Thank you, Trevor. You as well, man. This has been fun. I'm glad we were able to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to schedule another one in the future here. I want to make sure everyone knows. Again, go check out his Instagram, tnkphoto.com. By the way, can we tell everyone really quickly where TNK comes from?
It comes from my I think he's sleeping in the other room. So Tank is my dog, and just I'm gonna summarize it in 15 seconds. When I rebranded, I didn't want my name on the photography thing because when somebody hits you up, they're gonna want Elmer Escobar photography. They're gonna want Elmer Escobar. When somebody hits us up and they see TNK photo, it could be an acronym for whatever you want it to be. But what it really is it was named after Tank. I just took the A out and there we go, TNK photo. That's what it is.
I
Because the name doesn't really matter. It's the work ethic that you put behind it. It's the way that you treat people. That's what's going to make you guys who you are. So the name doesn't matter. Come up with something that's significant to you that you love. I love my baby boy. That's what it's named.
I love it, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you shared that story. I knew that was the case, and I just wanted other people to hear that. I think it's great. So love it.
Thank you, Trevor.
Elmer, tons of good tips in this episode of How I Shot It. Lots of good stuff that people can take away, not just lighting wise, but also just even business and life for that matter. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode.
Of course, Trevor. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit your notifications, comment, like, all that good stuff. It all is helpful. Make sure that when we do these episodes, people are appreciating it. So thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Elmer. Appreciate you. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.